All right, so everyone, welcome back to Breslov Efrat here at Shira David. What a schus that we have. We had a beautiful Nate's Minyan. Baruch Hashem, Haidul Hashem, Ki Tov. All right, we're in Likutey Halachos and we're in Hilchos Tzitzis. And today it's exciting because we're starting Halacha Dalet. Now this is based on Torah 8 in Likutey Maran. And it's based on the Maimah of Re'isi Menayra Zov. Now this is a very important lesson. It's a very deep lesson. It's a very long lesson. It's a lesson that Rabbi Nachman gave on Chanukah, right? It was Menorah Zov, right? And the Rebbe goes over there and he explains this a wonderful concept. He explains this concept of to give anocha a groan, a sigh, and what a sigh really means. You know, you'll hear sometimes there'll be a krech. Oh, look at this guy. Yisha, very good. I give a Yiddish a krech. Yeah. My dear Rabbi Chaim, he always says, you give a groan, and you go, oi! That's what Rabbi Chaim does. And I've been with him so many times.
Correct.
Huh?
That's not a krech.
No, that's a krech. That's a real krech. That's a real krech. That's a real krech. And I'm telling you, I've been with him so many times in so many places in so many circumstances, and all of a sudden you just hear he just does that, and I go, wow, he's connecting mamish to this Torah. Where the Rebbe says like this, he says, you know, we all connect back to the Ruach Chayim, right? Ruach Chayim. And any time that we're lacking something in life, whether it be something physical or something spiritual, right? That means we're lacking something from the Ruach Chayim. We're lacking something. So then the question is, how do you bring it into your life? How do you get that thing that you're lacking, right? So you can cheat, beg, and steal, right? You can do that. That's one way. Or you can rely on the Rabbeinu Shalom, right? And you can give out that. You can give a krech on what you need. Why? Because when you give a krech, you're elongating. Again, you're lengthening. Erech hapayim. What's the Renaissance midah? Erech hapayim. What does erech hapayim mean? Yisha, you want to explain that to us? What is erech hapayim?
Long suffering.
The lengthening something. You're lengthening it out. So when you lengthen something out, you can actually fill it with something. In other words, you lengthen it, you can fill it. In other words, there's space. As we're learning this whole concept. The Rebbeinu Shalom is Mekoi Moshe Loilam, and we have to be L'malam and Amokim. Remember that, right? Because if you're in your Mokim, you can't fit anything else, right? Like this thermos, right? My new thermos, Baruch Hashem. It can only hold so much in there, right? There's only so much will fit in this thermos, right? But if it wasn't a thermos and it's just I'm pouring coffee out, whatever, it could be as much as you want, right? So the same idea. I'm just trying to connect the lessons together. Rabbi Nachman didn't do that, okay? But and Rabbi Nosson, I truly believe Rabbi Nosson did have that idea, because again he's connecting this lesson right after the other lesson. So again, I'm going to just this is a chiddush that the erech hapayim is making space, lifting me out of my mokim where I think it's impossible for me to accomplish what I want to accomplish because I'm stuck here, right? If a person's stuck, he doesn't see. He's just, people sometimes when they're stuck in their own situations, they don't step out of the situation to look at the situation from an outside perspective to see how to get out. You understand what I'm saying, right? In other words, sometimes people are just stuck in their thing and they don't see any way out. They're trapped. They're confined, right? So again, when you now the Rebbe explains over there very much so, very, very, very important. I'm just giving you the recap of the lesson, what we'll need for this lesson. He explains like this: the tzadikim are connected to the Torah, of course, because the tzadikim they live their life of the Torah, and the Torah is Ruach Chayim. The Torah is the Ruach Chayim. So when we connect ourselves to tzadikim, right? When we connect ourselves to the Rav, the Kedusha, right? So then we can get our whatever we need based on our connection to the tzadikim. Because the tzadikim, again, know what we need. When we're connected to them, they know what we need because we have a kesher to them. So they understand on the neshama. They understand what we truly need. And then the tzaddik can go and dive into the Rebbeinu Shalom for us to fulfill what we need. So when we give that krech, I'm not making a very deep lesson. I'm just trying to make it short so we can get to our lesson over here. Okay? Basically, when we're lacking something, when we're connected to tzadikim, that's the means that we can fulfill what we are lacking, whether it's something ruchnius, spiritual, or something physical. Now, where do we see this? Where do we see this in the Torah? We see this when it came to Esau. Yaakov Avinu sent that beautiful dar and that beautiful gift to Esau. And what did Esau say? What was his response? Yesh li Rav. Interesting lesson that Esau used, right? Why Yesh li Rav? Right? Is that a normal? Would that be a normal response? Yesh li Rav.
I don't know. I have a lot.
I understand, but again, every word that's chosen in the Torah is very critical. You have to understand. Let's understand it. There could have been other words he used also. Why did he use Rav? Because the Rebbe explains us that Esav was connected to the Rav the Klipa. Esav is connected to the Rav the Klipa. All of Esav gets, the Esav is the Sitraka, the Satan, everything else. He gets his stuff from that side. When he gives his krechs, he gets his stuff from that side. You understand? Now, we also understand that when the other side gives off their ruach, right? They give off their stench, right? The same way when there's a stench, when someone has, let's say they pass gas, right? So in a couple of minutes it dissipates, right? It may be strong. Again, I'm sorry. I'm explaining the lesson, okay? Yeah. But you need to understand it. You need to understand it so that it's okay. So in other words, so the same way it's strong and very uncomfortable at the moment, but okay, in a few moments it'll dissipate. So too is wicked evilness in the world. It gets strong and then it fades away. It's gone. There's no there's no trace of it. It's gone. But when you do something of kedusha, it's everlasting. It's everlasting. And then and like they always say like this, the biggest proof of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Torah is Klal Yisrael today, right? Klal Yisrael, that we're here today. That we're here today in Eretz Yisrael, in Efrat. They even talk about Efrat in the parsha this week, right? Efrat, unbelievable. You want to call it Efrat, you want to call it Efrat. It's all in the parsha. We're here. We're living the dream, mamish. We're living the dream right now. That's the greatest proof. The whole world is against us. The whole world has what to say, where we can go, where we can daven, where we can't daven. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's mamish unbelievable. But we're getting there where some of these leaders will actually tell the guys, shut up. They'll tell them, shut up and get out. We're getting there. It's slow, right? We're at least Baruch Hashem on that thing. Okay. So again, that's the point of the lesson over here. But when we connect to something real, when we connect to tzadikim, when we connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's real. Like we were learning so far in Tzitzis, right? Just to recap for a second, we look at the Tzitzis, the four corners, right? That's also connected to the Ruach Chaim because all the Ruach comes from the four corners. Everything's from all of that. And we learn when you look at the Tzitzis, you see the Tcheles, and the Tcheles is Tachlis. And then you connect yourself to the Yam Suf, like Chazal tell us, and you know the same way that the Yam Suf has a whole world going on down there. We have no idea. It's so beautiful, right? The scuba divers show us different footage sometimes, but really, do we understand what's going on in the sea? We have no idea. Why did Hashem make it like that? The same way, guys, you see there's a whole world down there, you have no idea. You have no idea what's going on in the world. I take care of it, Hashem says. Isn't that beautiful? Right? There's a whole world going on down there. All the plants and all the fish and all the things and who knows what's all it. Unbelievable, right?
Nobody knows.
It's unbelievable. And then whenever if you ever saw like a video, the footage of it, it's mind-boggling. How all of these different schools of fish, and then this one runs this one, and that one runs that one. Fascinating, right? Okay. So then you see. Then Chazal tells you see this. The blue reminds you of the sea, and then the sea reminds you of the heavens, right? Then you think of the heavens. Wow, all the worlds and all the constellations and all the. We have a little inkling today of something with world, but we have no idea really how far away it is and all that, right? But then we know that we can remember Olam Haba, and the Chazal tell us that it's the Kisei HaKavod, because the Kisei HaKavod is also that color of Tchelis. Whatever, that's what Chazal tell us. And then so we can remember the Kisei HaKavod. And then we know when we look at the Tzitzis, we mamish can be oiches on the Kisei HaKavod. Okay, so now let's look, so we just did a little recap on that. Now let's see how it fits into the lesson today, okay? So we're in Halacha Daled. Mashen mis'atfin b'tzitzis ba'tifas hayish me'elim. Wow, interesting, huh? Yeah, I understand. Right. We're going to discuss why.
Yeah.
I understand.
So I'm just saying, it says that in the...
I understand. Right. It says that in Or Chaim, in Siman Ches. Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's the halacha. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Not a chiddush. This is not a chiddush today. But let's understand, what is an atifa yishmelim? What is that? So the same way the Yishmaelim wrap themselves up in that, what do they call a katifa? What do they call that thing that they use?
Kafia.
Kafia, the kafia. Yeah, okay. and they're wrapped in that. That's the way Chazal tells that we have to wrap ourselves with tzitzis like that. Interesting, right? I was in my humble opinion is like this. In other words, because we're always trying to counter what they're doing. So they wrap themselves like this. So now we're going to take a mitzvah. We're going to take the talus, the talus, and I'm going to wrap myself against counter what they're doing. You understand?
Or maybe take that koach a little bit.
Take the koach. That's right. I'm going counter from them. I'm taking the koach from them. Exactly. Yeah, perfect. We were saying the same thing, right, Yishay? Thank you. Okay, so he said now, Hu al pi amamer re'isi minoy zov. Right? That's the Torah that we were just discussing right now, that I gave it a little Thompson of. Okay, it's a very, very beautiful Torah to understand that when I'm lacking something, I really can connect myself to the tzadikim, which ultimately connects me back to the Rabbeinu Shalom. And that's such a beautiful concept, such a beautiful lesson, that we don't have to worry about people. Sometimes people today, they love telling their problems to other people, and they love complaining, and they love crying. And for what? What are you wasting your time? People aren't going to help you. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Just focus yourself to your emunah on the emunah and the tzadikim, right? Mishan miftach la tzadikim, like we say in the Shemona Esrei, right? And connect ourselves back to the Rebbeinu. So that's really what it's all about. Tzitzis heim bechinas haruach. Tzitzis is ruach. Tzitzis is ruach. Why is tzitzis ruach? Because tzitzis are the four corners, right? Tzitzis is the four corners, ruach shenimshach hayedei anocha, that's drawn fire giving, that krechts. We're going to use Yishai's word now.
Sigh.
What? Sigh. The sigh. No, but he wanted us to say krechts. He said krechts, so we'll say krechts. That's also in Russian? The krechts is in...
It's the same word in Russian, but it means like this, But sigh is like... it's a different thing.
Yeah, that's what the Rabbi Nachman mean.
He meant the krechts.
Okay.
I'm only saying that based on what I learned from my Rebbe, Reb Chaim. He said that's a krechts. He give that big noise. Which is really the same thing, because when you make that big noise, you're really sighing. It's in there. The sigh is in there. The sigh is connected, is in the krechts, but it's even a bigger one.
Right.
It's a more power. All right, whatever. Okay, we understand what it is, right?
Yeah.
Shizel bechinas hataya. What's a taya? Shu a Sigh yishma. Taya is a Sigh yishma. He's an Arab merchant, right? That's what we're saying. An Arab merchant. Bechinas ki shama Hashem es onech. Hashem heard his cry. When was that cry? Remember that time when Avram Avinu sent off Hagar? Right? Because Sarah Imenu was complaining that Yishmael wasn't a very good influence on my son, right? Remember that? Right? Yeah. Right? And then they ran out of water and he was crying, and Hashem heard his anya. He heard his sigh. He heard his groan. He heard his complaint. And that's where Ruach Chaim comes from. All the Ruach Chaim comes back from the Rebbeinu Shalom. Ruach Chaim is from Hashem. Hashem gives everybody their life, whether they like it or not. Anyone, they can scream and kick that, there's no Hashem, there's nothing, but those people are using their Ruach Chaim from Hashem to scream and kick, right? They're using their Ruach Chaim from Hashem. If Hashem takes away their Ruach Chaim, what do they have? Nothing. They're just a pile of bones. What are they? Nothing. Bechinas arba tzitzis, which is connected to the arba tzitzis, shu bechinas soich, bechinas soivev, hoylech haruach. It's a surrounding. Surrounding is the ruach. Again, this is the tamsis of the lesson of Likutey Moharan. Now the Reb Nosson is going to go on and explain it in this lesson in halacha. So the problem, see, I'm only doing it like this because halacha dalet is very short. Right, halacha dalet is very short, and halacha and Likutey Moharan lesson 8 is very, very long. So it would maybe take us about a week and a half to 2 weeks to do that lesson, and this lesson is very short. So that's why we're going to go with the little with the tamsis. Okay, here we go. And therefore we have to wrap ourselves in the talus the same way the Yishmaelim do it, and this is a mistake that people make. You see this all the time. I know my dear Rebbe, Rabbi Moshe Weinberger, Zolzain Gesundten Stark. I remember years and years ago, he says that a lot of people put on their tzitzis. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know they have to make an atifas yishmael. So they put on the talus and they go, and this is what he said. And they close it, they go like this, ding. This is what he said. I'm quoting my Rebbe. Ding, and that's their atifah. But that's not, they didn't do atifas, they didn't put on their talus right. They did not put the mitzvah is to do the atifas yishmael. That's the mitzvah. You can't just put on your talus and go. You ever see that? The people put on the talus and they go like this, ding, and then but that's not atifas yishmael.
I've learned the davka, this atifas yishmael is like when your face is open, your eyes are open, and then
you have to be able to see. You have to be able to see, but it has to be exactly. You have to be able to see. You have to be able to see. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's not even kafir probably, but what they wear like a shawl, something.
Yeah, Rabbi Nachman says also that we have to have a place for his baidus, right? A special room for his baidus. So he says, he explains so nicely that, when you're in your talus, so that's really like your own little mokim over there. You're wrapped in with the Rabbeinu Shalom. That's a nice time to speak to the Rabbeinu Shalom and tell your Rabbeinu Shalom all your trials and tribulations right down Again, it's not. I'm just explaining to you based on. Of course, that's what David Amel did. David Amel was crying out to the Rebbe of any time. He used every situation. But what we can do, it's just something nice that we can do. We spend an extra moment with the talus over, when we're wrapped in the talus, and we can just use that moment to speak. It's a very auspicious moment to use to connect to the Rebbe Shalom. Because the same way, like when you're in a mikveh. You leave this world, right? Because you're in the mikveh. You can't. So too, when you wrap yourself in a talus, you kind of you're in another zone. So that's a very auspicious place and time to do that. Okay. Anyway, that's a side note. And therefore Yosef. Wow, look at this. Nothing is stam. Nothing is stam. Remember when the brothers put him in the pit, right? And they wanted to kill him, and Reuven said, no, don't do that, because he wanted to bring him back to Yaakov Avinu, right? And then what happened? They saw the Yishmaelim came by. They went, well, wait a second, why should we kill him? Let's make a couple of shekel. Let's make a couple of shekel. We'll sell him. We'll sell him. Remember that? Unbelievable. But again, it's so fascinating that whole thing, that whole story is a remarkable story. The whole thing of Mechiras Yosef and how Yosef HaTzadik went down to Mitzrayim. And Chazal teach us, and it's brought in the Medrash, all because Yaakov Avinu was meant to come down to Mitzrayim in chains. Yaakov Avinu was meant to come down to Mitzrayim in chains. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Yaakov Avinu, Yaakov Ahuvi, my beloved, how can I send Yaakov Avinu down to Mitzrayim in chains when it really wasn't even his fault? So the Medrash says that really all of these things that transpired, from the very fact when Yaakov Avinu made Yosef the Ksainis Pasa, right? Because if you think about it, Chazal tell us, you shouldn't favor one child over the next. So why did Yaakov Avinu do that? Why is Yosef HaTzadik telling him over things that the brothers, what they're doing, Lashon Hara? That's not nice, right? And then the brothers, they don't find the Nekuda Taiva in Yosef and they want to kill him, right? All these things that happen, they're very, very strange things. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu really, Darkei Hashem Nistarim, we have no idea the way Hashem does things and why Hashem does things. But here's one example. Like we were learning yesterday. Whenever you see a person doing something that you think is wrong, right? You see a Jew doing something and you size it up that he's doing that thing wrong. Really, you have to understand that person's going through his Yerida. And we know that every Yerida is L'tzayrech and Aliyah, right? Every Yerida is L'tzayrech and Aliyah. So whatever that person's going through, whatever he's going through is only going through that situation now to raise him up. He's going through whatever he's going through. It's none of my business. I can't judge anybody because I don't know the situation that they're in. I have no idea. So too, the same idea. You see this from the story with Yaakov Avinu. You see that it's a beautiful, I think, a beautiful example that you could see it, how people were doing strange things. But really, HaKadosh Baruch Hu had an ulterior motive for the reason why everyone was doing everything. Because on the surface, the things didn't look right. Right? Is that true? I mean, why would Yaakov Avinu make him a nice coat and not make a nice coat for everybody? Why? Why would he do that? Right?
Yeah. Or send him from Hebron to Shechem by himself.
Oh, Shechem by himself, right? To look up on his brother, Shechem.
Big distance to walk by yourself, a 17-year-old at night.
Yeah, it's a crazy place, right? Even look at today. Unbelievable. All these things. Okay. Ki Yosef hu bechinas tzitzis. Wow, look at this. Yosef is an aspect of tzitzis. What does that mean, Yosef is an aspect of tzitzis? Yosef's the tzaddik, right? Yosef, no matter what situation he finds himself in, he's always connected to Hashem. No matter what he finds himself in. And boy, did Yosef have a hard life. Right? Did Yosef have a hard life? For when he was first born, his brothers really despised him because, all right. And then he was thrown into a pit. And all of the things like we spoke about. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Yosef was always connected to the Rebbeinu Shalom. And you see that by Tifar. You see that, and you see that when he came to Paroi. Paroi said, "You're a man of God." What? How did Paroi, and by Tifar, these guys were not spiritual guys. These guys were evil guys. They weren't exactly, but they recognized that he was a man of God. They recognized it. It was unbelievable, right? He's in the Beis HaSoah, right? And they realize, whoa, this guy's not a regular guy. The next thing you know, he's in charge of the Beis HaSoah, right? Isn't that strange, right? Interesting. Yosef HaTzadik is Tzitzis. Tzitzis is connected to Torah. Tzitzis is the Daled Ruchais, like we say, the four corners. That's the Ruach Elikim, right? Kamuva b'Priyei Tzchayim and Shah Tzitzis. And that's brought in the Priyei Tzchayim in his lesson on Tzitzis, and you can look that up in Perik Daled. Okay, Ala Pasik, Hine bincha Yosef bo elecha. How do you like that? Which parsha is that from?
Yeah, this parsha.
How do you like that, huh? How do you like that? This week's parsha, where we're up to, falls at the Hine bincha Yosef bo elecha shu say Tzitzis. That's the site of Tzitzis, Ayin Sham. This is all part of the lesson in lesson Ches in Likutey Maran. But Yosef HaTzadik is the Tzadik. Again, that's the most important thing we have to understand. And the Tzadik is connected to the Daled Ruchais. The Tzadik is connected to the Daled Ruchais. And therefore, when we give that krech, and we're connected to the tzadikim, and we connect ourselves to the tzadikim, the Tzadik can be mashlim, can help be mashlim what we are lacking. The tzaddik can help be mashlim what we are lacking. Okay, does that make so far? Anyone want to have any comments, any questions? These are big concepts.
The connection. Where's the side over here? The anacha and
No. There's no anacha over here. There's no anacha over here. But we're saying the concept that the tzaddik. We're talking about the tzaddik. When I connect myself to the tzaddikim, what was Yosef HaTzadik telling them, the brothers, the whole time? Look, you're gonna have to bow down to me. What does that mean? You're connected to me. Yosef is a tzaddik, right? They don't want to connect to him, right? They're going against him, right? They're against him. They're not for him. They're against him, right? What was the whole problem? They say he had his dreams.
There's also his way of talking, though. This is what always bothers me. His way of talking is off-putting. It's off-putting. tough pudding. If you're going to say that you're connected to me, you have to say it in a way that doesn't. You have to say it in a way that's nishma, that's heard. You have to say it in a way that is.
But that's not the way they did things back then. In other words, you have to understand. Everything was done in a riddle. It was done in a riddle and a remez, right?
I'm saying there's also a weakness.
Just put it forward.
Again. That's not the okay. But let's not focus. We're focusing on the point that Yosef is the tzaddik, and the same way when they were lacking something, what were they lacking? Food. They had to go to the tzaddik to get their food, right? So too, I'm just connecting the dots for you, okay? So too, when we are lacking, whatever we're lacking in this world, whatever we're lacking, whether, again, like I said, if it's something spiritual, if it's a davar ruchni or it's a davar gashmi, it doesn't matter. Whatever I'm lacking, if it's a physical thing or a spiritual thing, if I can give that krex for that thing that I'm lacking, and I can lengthen the space to allow it to fall in, to allow that thing to come in via me lengthening the space. You understand how we're talking about here, right? That's really what the sigh is. You go, oh. So I take that breath, and I just made a lot more space in that breath, right? We give a lot of breaths every moment. Baruch Hashem, we're alive, so we have breaths. But when I can take a breath and I can lengthen it, I can allow for the thing what I'm missing to fall in. And again, the question is, who are we connected to? Are we connected to the Rav the Kedusha, or are we connected to the Rav the Klipa? Right? Yosef at Tzaddik is the Rav the Kedusha. Esav is connected to the Rav the Klipa. So in other words, we're all going to get our Ruach Chayim from something. Right? In other words, this is the main thing we have to understand. Where are we getting our Ruach Chayim? Are we getting our Ruach Chayim from the Klipa? Or are we getting our Ruach Chayim from the Rav the Kedusha? Right, the Tanya we're learning in Tanya. Right, the Tanya we're learning the whole idea of the ruach. You have the nefesh elikus and the nefesh bahamas. Right. So where are you getting? Where are you drawing your life from? Are you drawing your life from the nefesh bahamas, which is the way the Tanya says it? Here we're talking about the Rav the Klipa. It's the same thing, right? The same idea. Or are you getting are you connected to the ruach, the Rav the Kedusha, which is the neshama? Which is the nefesh elikus. So, and there was all Chassidus, and that's why Rabbi Weinberg told, he had told, I had a talk with him close to 30 years ago, and he had told me, if you're going to want to understand anything in Chassidus, you really have to know Tanya. You really have to know Tanya, because he said Tanya is 101 of Chassidus. So all the concepts are really there. So if you study Tanya, you go through it, you'll understand the concepts, what we're learning over here. And that's what I'm just trying to connect the ideas over here. Okay, so you have to be connected to something. Got it? Right? We're either connected to Kedusha, we're either connected to the side of impurity. Right? Either way, we're going to be connected to something. And that's really the thing that we have to focus on. And unfortunately, those that try to go on the side, and we learned this concept also when it came to eating. Do you remember we learned this thing? There's something called moisrus, right? I eat and I eat things that I'm enticed by, right? I go to the restaurant and I buy a fancier thing that I don't necessarily need. Why do we have that? Why do we have these taivas for eating? Right? We learned this in prior lessons. Do you remember that? We learned these ideas. The whole idea is the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara gets into us and attacks us based on what we eat that we don't need. When we connect ourselves to taiva, right? That's taiva, right? The guy sees something, I want that. It's a taiva. And the Yetzer Hara wants us to eat something and connect to the taiva. You understand? Because when we connect to the taiva, he grabbed us. He has us. That's what he wants. So again, when we eat, we're supposed to think that I'm eating this thing in order to have koyach, in order to serve the Rabbeinu Shalom. That's why I'm eating. I'm not necessarily eating because of pleasure. See, again, there's a difference. So you can eat because I have to eat, because I need vitality in order to serve the Rabbeinu Shalom, right? That's wonderful, right? Or the guy sits down to eat and he goes, this is the great, and the guy's just delighting on it. Now that's not on Shabbos. See, on Shabbos, the macholim are very, very high. Remember we learned that last week, right? The macholim on Shabbos are very, very high. So again, that's something that I learned from my Rabbi Moshe Weinberger, that he said that, and his lesson was that again, if you have that meatloaf in the refrigerator on Tuesday, and then it comes Shabbos, so you think that it's that old meatloaf that was there on Tuesday, it's that old meat. No. When it comes to Shabbos, if you have that meatloaf it's a different meatloaf. Yes, it may look the same. You may think it's the same. But really, the macholim of Shabbos are much, much higher than the macholim of during the week. All right, and that's the reason why it's good to just to speak these things out again, just to review. That's why during the week we don't eat anything before we daven, right? Because again, during the week the macholim are very, very low. They're very low, and that we need the koyach to be able to make that bracha, to eat it in the right way. To make that bracha, to eat it for the sake of making the bracha and having what do you call it? Having strength in order to serve the Rabbeinu Shalom. Okay, and that's what the main thing is. There was that story I told you. I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but there was a story. Which is a beautiful understanding of this concept is where there was one time there was a misnagid. There was a misnagid, someone that was against Hasidus, right? And this poor fella had the misfortune of passing through a Hasidic town, and he had to stay there for quite some time, when he was doing business or whatever the case was. And he was really beside himself. But he said, you know what? Let me see what it's all about. I'm here anyway, so let me see. So he goes to shul. He goes to shul in the morning, and he sees the Rebbe in the front. The Rebbe is davening, and the Rebbe is doing his things. And then he sees after davening, the Rebbe sits down, and he takes out an apple, and he takes out a knife, and he cuts up the apple, and he eats his apple. Okay? So the guy's thinking to himself, you know what? I don't know. I put on my talus, and I put on my tefillin. I daven, and I can also eat an apple. What's this thing with the Rebbe? What is this? So he decides that the next morning, I don't know if it was, maybe it had been on the third day. He watched the Rebbe do this a second time. So on the third day, I think it was, that he decided that, I'll go to the market and I'll get an apple, and after davening, I'll sit down and I'll eat my apple also. I'm really no different than this Rebbe. Well, what is he making himself? So he goes and he buys himself an apple. And he's so excited, he comes to shul in the morning. Now he has in his talus bag, he has his apple. And after davening, he gets ready to sit down to eat the apple, right? He gets ready to sit down. And the Rebbe calls him over. Kima her, Rav Yid. Come over here, Rav Yid. So the Rebbe says to him like this. He says, listen, I know what you were thinking. And I know that and what you were thinking is absolutely correct. It's true. I put on my talus, and I put on my tefillin, and you put on your talus, and you put on your tefillin, and I daven, and you daven. And yeah, that's true. He said, there's one difference. There's one very big difference. And what's the big difference, he says? He says, you see, I want to be able to make a bracha. I want to be able to make brichas nene, right? A bracha, when we enjoy something, we have to make a bracha, right? That's what anything we eat and drink, we have to make a bracha. We have to say thank you to the Rabbeinu Shalom, right? But I can only make the birchas nenen if I have an apple, if I have something to eat. So I have no choice. I have to eat the apple because I want to be able to make that bracha. You see, when you want to eat the apple, and you can't eat the apple unless you make the bracha. So that's the very difference between us two. That's the very big difference between us two. Yes, we both have talus. Yes, we both have tefillin. Yes, we both daven, and yes, we both eat an apple. But I eat the apple only to be able to afford me the opportunity to make the bracha, whereas you eat the apple you eat the apple because you want to eat the apple, and you can't eat the apple unless you make the bracha. And that's what we're learning here. They're subtle differences. There's subtle differences, but these subtle differences are the ways and the means that the Yetzer Hara ekes into us and tries to take us over to his side. And so we're learning here this beautiful concept, when we give that krech, that groan, to the Rabbeinu Shalom, when we can do that, and we know when we rely, it's the Rabbeinu Shalom, it's not this guy, it's not the government, it's not anything, it's all you, Hashem. That's how we can be Muslim anything that we really need. That's where it comes from. Because again, the whole program we're in is really connecting us back to the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's all it's about. All Yiddishkeit is only to connect us. The Torah is 613 advices, 613 ways to connect to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Is that not true? Right? That's all it is. It's all different ways. And the same way we can understand is like this. Sometimes you have a dartboard. Everyone play dart? You ever play darts? Darts are nice, right? You put a dartboard on the wall, right? But you ever see how people play darts, right? Some guys, they stand a little bit to the right and they throw. The other guy stands a little bit to the left. One guy goes down, he throws this way. And everyone throws from a different way, right? You ever see that? Right? Everyone goes a different way. But what are they all trying to get to? They're all trying to get to the bullseye, right? Everyone, that's the common denominator. When you're playing darts, you're trying to get the bullseye. So too is all the mitzvahs in the Torah, everything. They're all different ideas, different ways, different avenues to get to the bullseye, which is the Rebbeinu Shalom. So we're all trying to get to the Rebbeinu Shalom, and that's really what it is. I think we'll stop over here now, okay? It's a lot of things to think about. But really the main thing to think about here today is this idea, whenever you're lacking something, and you can give that sigh or the krechs, whichever way you want to call it, whatever you're happy with, okay, and recognize that you're lengthening the breath, and you're trying to connect to the tzadikim, and that's really what we're trying to do, and that's what this chabur is all about. And Baruch Hashem, we have thousands of people that listen to our shiurim. I can't believe it, mamash. And I thank everyone, kol hakavod to everybody, really. It's unbelievable. Yishay, we had one class the other day, 3,600 people listened to our class. Unbelievable. And I get the things that it's all over the world, it's unbelievable. And what are we trying to do? Connect to the tzadikim. So everyone, when you give a krechs, recognize you're connecting back to the tzadikim, you're connecting back, and that is the way to be mashlim anything that you're lacking. Kol tuv, everybody.